that's not being transmitted right now, or it is?
Yes. There you go. Yes, we're live right now.
All right. I'll
Just
get our.
test for a second, okay? Just to be sure.
Yeah, do you mind if I move the microphone and do a little bit of adjustment?
Please. Yep.
More? Okay.
All right, and then your mic is right here.
Good morning.
Yeah, it's definitely. That's live. Can you test your microphone, Trey?
Good morning.
It's not working. Let me see your mic.
Check, check, check.
Yep, it's working now. This button needs to be on. Up. There you go.
I saw the red dot and thought that was off.
Yeah, it means it's live. It's weird. So it's on right now. So
Excellent. Good morning.
this. You can hear you. You guys are live on camera right now. Good morning, Ron. Your mic. If you want to talk.
All right. How's the level on my mic?
Good.
Good. Okay.
Good.
All right. Yeah. There's like a 2-second delay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
There's going to be naturally.
All right. Well, I guess we're live. Good morning and welcome to Huntington Beach for the 2023 Ocean Cup Pacific Rum Run Race. We are waiting for the sun to come up, waiting to see the boats get lined up and get ready to start. And I am your host, Martin Sanborn, joined with my friend Fred PK for Fred. It is so good to see you again.
Good to see you, Martin. And it's good to be live with all these folks watching us on their computers, I suspect.
I suspect, or at least listening to us on their computers. If they're at work, don't want the bosses to know that they're not exactly focusing on work. If they're on the East Coast, if they're on the West Coast, they're probably not working yet.
Yeah.
It's early here. So the boats are on their way out right now. We should be able to provide you some interesting tracking. It always gets challenging when they get on the backside of the Catalina Island. But the objective here is to see if they can do this in around an hour and 20 minutes because all the boats running this today are open cockpit boats, so they have a 100-mile-an-hour speed limit per the APBA rules. So we've got 5 boats out there competing. The fastest one out there right now is going to be the Outer Limits, and they are the ones that just set the record from San Francisco to Long Beach for all the folks that listen, and they obliterated that record, set it in 5 hours, 18 minutes, and 39 seconds, all the way from San Francisco down to Long Beach, California. That is a long run, and to beat it by over an hour is pretty significant. So the other boats we've got Patriotic Duty. That is an Outer Limits. We've got Heat Wave, which is a 1988 Magnum. We've got Miss Wex, which is a Chief. I didn't get the year on that boat when I was at day, but it's a 50-foot boat. Then we've got Jolly Roger, which is a Aki Mannerfelt bat boat. And then we've got Revelation Racing, which is a Levy. It looks like it's a closed bow boat, but they actually made a cover to cover that boat to make it legal to race because it is actually an open bow boat with a pair of 400R Verados on it. The Aki Mannerfelt boat is a pair of 300R V8, the new Verados. It has 540 Bulldogs, and the Outer Limits is a pair of 1350s in 1100 1350s. So it should be interesting. The way they're going to start this race off is you're going to start at the Huntington Beach Pier. The boats are timed individually, so they'll take off, and as they cross the pier mile, then they're going to make a left-hand turn. That'll be the only left-hand turn of the day. That gets them out of the air box for the air show, and then they the ship rock, pass it on the other side this time, still keeping it on the starboard, head back to the beach, turn right at the airbox, and head back to the pier. In the event that they're running late, we have a hard stop at 9:30 that they are going to absolutely close down the airbox. So that means that if anybody's running beyond that, they're going to go to one of the oil rigs named Esther, and that will be their alternative finish if they're not going to make it back before 9:30. So they're going to let them know about 9:15 if they're not going to make it to divert.
And that will be a challenge.
Yes. And it's also going to change the timing a little bit, because that's not going to change it much. It's a couple miles shorter than coming all the way to Huntington Beach, or coming all the way to Huntington Beach Pier. So, and it'll be interesting to see what the weather is. Right now, it's clear, but there's a forecast of fog. As I was driving down Pacific Coast Highway this morning to get to the hotel, you could see the oil rigs very clearly. And as soon as the sun started breaking, you see some fog on the water. And traditionally, there's fog from the oil rigs to the island. When we used to run the Catalina ski race, we'd have fog in the middle section. You'd get this massive clearing before the island, which is kind of like a revelation. You see it show up, and then you turn back around and go straight back into the fog, heading back into Long Beach, but in the case of the Catalina ski race.
And there's no fun running in fog.
No, not at all, especially when you're pulling a skier in the fog. We were talking about how crazy those water skiers are. I mean, we'd literally be able to not be able to see the skier in the fog behind our boat.
The good news is you can feel them if they fall.
Yes. Got to go back and find them, though. So we're waiting for an update right now, but those that are looking at the screen, looks like the boats are spread out a little bit. I can't tell, one screen's moving, the other screen's not. We've got the onboard. The guy wants the 3 seats that you see in the middle boat of the 3. That is our outer limits Patriotic Duty. That's a 50-foot outer limits. And they added the 3rd seat, and those guys ran. They're the ones that ran down from San Francisco. My sheet that had the. Oh, yes, it does have the name of it. Tony Adams is in the boat. Steve Seaton and Alan Bellinghausen are in the boat. Alan is the one that jumped in. He's in the center seat. Got a chance to talk to the guys in Heat Wave. That interesting story on that boat. In 1988 Magnum has been in the family since 1990. They got it out of a police auction in Miami. So you can imagine what that was a result of. It has an exceptionally large fuel tank in it. So it was
designed to go distance.
Designed to go distance and carry cargo. Became part of a police auction. It's been in the family. And then when his father passed away, it had been sitting on a trailer for decades, effectively. And they decided during COVID they were going to take the boat out and start refurbishing it. So rebuilt the boat. All the wood in the boat is original. Changed the upholstery, brand new motors, number 3 drives on it. So
all original on the transom.
Yes.
The drives are original.
The tabs.
The tabs were generation 1.
Okay, we're not seeing that on the big screen.
Okay, then right
on
here.
the small screen, we see
Yes.
it.
There you go. Helicopters up.
So the plan is we should have 2 helicopters flying with the boats today. And again, with this being one of the largest areas in the country, they're very strict on controlling the airspace as soon as they start approaching showtime. So nothing flies through the airbox. We need that. They don't even want the boats running through there, which is why they have the hard stop at 9:30 to one of the oil rigs if they're coming late. So we can talk a little bit about the Ocean Cup because we're going to have plenty of time to talk. For those that were part of listening to the race from San Francisco, this race was originally initiated by Bob Nordskog back in the day, and he held the record for about 35 years or so until it was broke last couple of weeks ago. and it kind of carried on. Pacific Offshore ended up racing and called this race the Rum Run. So a lot of history with this event. And then when they teamed it up with the air show, it kind of brought it back to life. Back in the day, I started my racing career running in Pacific Offshore. So I grew up in Huntington Beach, so this is my hometown. So I enjoy being here and seeing family. And it's nice to see the racing coming back, especially living on the East Coast now. Get a chance to come back and see racing thriving out here on the West Coast again. We look at some of the other records that were set last year's numbers. Revelation Racing did it. Let's see, Revelation was they did it. Move it over here. So they average speed 59 miles an hour, did it in an hour and 53. Jolly Roger set the record in an open cockpit less than 30 feet, and the Rocky Manifold did 65.84. Actually, this isn't the records; those were the times. Patriotic Duty did it at 81.33 miles an hour in 81 minutes, or I'm sorry, 81 miles an hour in an hour and 24 minutes. Then Copeland's Marine did it in an hour and 12 minutes at 92 miles an hour. And that was Jeff McCann, and that wasn't last year. That had been the year before, I think. Oh, that was last year, because I didn't remember Jeff being here last year. And then the Lucas Oil Boat kind of crushed it at 92 miles an hour, 112, 1 hour, 12 minutes, and 54 seconds. In the Lucas Oil Mystic. I didn't remember Jeff McCann being here last year. Raced with him on the East Coast. He's has a restaurant there in Morehead City, North Carolina. So we actually hosted a race there a couple of times with him. So see if we can get an update on our timing. They were talking about trying to get things rolling as soon as sunrise so we wouldn't have any issues. It's just now coming up on 7 o'clock Pacific time. The sun is coming up. You can definitely see fog out on the water.
6:44 official sunrise. I could do that in.
Yeah, thank you.
6:44 was official sunrise this morning.
Well, they're going to wait and see they got to wait for clearance. They got to wait for the helicopter to get out here. And then the boats are going to be kind of on their own when they're ready to go. They can drive across. Once they drive across the pier and start, they're on their way. They have to navigate all the marks of the course, so they get a penalty. So last year, I guess there was some talk. They wanted to make sure everybody understands they have to go all the way to the end of the airbox, make the left-hand turn at the white marker, and that'll take them out. As we look on the screen, we can see all the boats are staged in one area. The marshal looks like he's about a half mile away where the edge of the airbox is, and that's where they're going to go. And we're saying airbox like everybody understands what we mean. For the air show, they actually cordon off a section of the water right out in front of the pier, and that is the primary section of the air show that no air traffic, and they don't want boats in there either. So that's just a safety buffer for the aircraft that are going to be flying today. Everything from propeller-driven stunt planes to the Thunderbirds. We got a chance to see them yesterday. I know I got each yesterday. We wrapped those up, and then we'll
see a lot more of that today and
absolutely. So if you're anywhere near Huntington Beach, you want to come down. Of course, if you're anywhere near Huntington Beach, you can hear it, but you'll want to come down to the beach. It's just a great place to see it. And you can see it over the entire beach, from Field Beach all the way down to almost down to Newport. You can pretty much see the planes as they're making the turns, especially the fast ones. So it'll be a great day here in Huntington Beach for the Ocean Cup Pacific Rum Run and the Pacific Air Show. And this year they're also teaming up with the Australian Air Show down in Sydney. So they're promoting that here at the event as well. So a lot of stuff to do down at the beach. Actually, when I drove down yesterday, they've got an F-16 parked right at the pier. One of the Thunderbird planes. So get up close and personal.
Just wondering how they landed it.
I'm sure they didn't clear Pacific Coast Highway and make a landing. I did notice the wings fold on the side of that, so probably came on a truck. But last year was the Blue Angels, and it was a very oriented show. And I walked through the beach area today. It's a very Air Force oriented show. So, and then the year before that, it was actually both of them here, which is really kind of neat. You don't see both of them flying together in the same show, much less flying together. They actually do some both flying together scenarios. It's just absolutely fantastic to watch. Fred, you and I were talking before we went live. Of course, you and I've known each other in the marine industry forever. I briefly got to know your dad, met your dad, basically because of Reggie working for Fountain. But I kind of recall being involved with NASCAR, but as I'm reading the information here, I really had no idea how heavily involved in NASCAR he was.
He was all in NASCAR. He always claimed that he went there to learn about four strokes for the Cruiser product line that was yet to be conceived, let alone introduced. I think he made that up because he liked to go racing. But he was probably one of the most aggressive team owners in NASCAR. He was the first to bring his vehicles and closed trucks to the race sites. He was the crew members in uniform and to first put advertising over the side of his cars. In the early days of NASCAR, they were mostly rum runners trying to do something legitimate on the weekends. And there was usually staffed with people who drove rum on the week days, and the other entrants were the police. Just a very almost informal. There were rules, but my dad was the first to actually introduce a professional style to the racing. And he was also a guy who studied the rule books very, very carefully and found every way he could to bend the rules to his advantage without breaking them. I still remember a story where he told me that, well, they specified how big the fuel tanks could be. They didn't say anything about the fuel filler. So he had about a foot wide gas filler that ran to the tank just to get a little extra mileage. He also spent some time with analysis of the track materials. After every race, he would pull samples from the underside of the car to find out what the size of the dirt was, and he invented what widely applied as a paper air filter. And that was based on some of the dirt tracks that they had to race, and they'd gum everything up, and then they wouldn't run very well because they like gas and air, they don't like dirt.
Right, exactly.
So, and he gave the design concept to purely to air filters for most of the automotive industry.
I noticed that was he also one of the first to have multi driver teams? I mean,
Yes.
it looked like he had up to 6 guys, and then their winning record for the number of races entered was spectacular.
Actually, yes, they seemed to dominate. Although the wonder was who would finish second, because it was given that Kiko cars were going to win, and he got to the point where the fans started booing him, and he thought, this isn't good, and that's when he withdrew from racing. He said, I don't need to go there to have my product tarnished.
No.
He went there to impress people with the engineering capabilities of the team. So, he was also a pretty volatile team manager, so he did run out of staff from time to time.
Well, he likes it his way. As we look on the screen, it looks like that is Delaware Racing that is on the start. And you see that the typical Pacific water. I mean, it's calm on top. You see those swells that stack up out here. So even on a calm day, you've got a pretty decent swell. The difference is that they just space way out. So they have to go past, and I think that is the mark right there. So now he can make his right or his left-hand turn. It's about a half mile from the pier. I think there's a 0.2 miles from the pier to make his turn, and now he just heads basically almost due south to head to Ship Rock, which is at the north end of Catalina Island. Catalina Island kind of runs north-south, but a little east-west also.
How's that boat look to you? Probably good.
Looks nice. That was one of the first ones they built as an outboard boat for lady craft. So they did a nice job. It's got a pair of 500R Mercuries. That's the L6 platform motor. Individually on jack plates. So each motor has a jack plate that operates independently. And then when we see the Aki Mannerfeld boat go, the Bat boat, That boat actually has a single jack plate by Porta, where both engines, when you hit the up on the jack plate moves up and down, and both motors move. The difference is it actually swings on an axis. So the higher up you go, it swings through an arc. So you're actually changing how far away the engine is from the transom. At least the other ones, when it goes up and down, all you're doing is changing the X dimension. This one, you're also changing what your setback really is. So interesting. I'd be interested to see how that works in a precise situation. I would think water is probably nominal.
And the Revelation Racing team is a father-daughter. Crystal?
Yep, and he had mentioned that the moment she was old enough to qualify to sign a release on AQB, she's been racing with him ever since. So they had a lot of fun. They were great to talk to yesterday. He sent a bunch of information, and we'll look through and talk about them a little bit as well. But they were out there in the boat yesterday, putting props on it, getting ready to go.
Yeah, this is great. So Eric Briner's up in the helicopter, and the way the teams have agreed to space it out is when Eric and the helicopter get back over, the next boat will start. And I assume it'll be one of the smaller boats again. It'll probably be maybe Jolly Roger, do you think?
Yeah, they had said that they wanted the small boats to go first because they just didn't want to drive through the wakes of the big boats. But then at some point, the big boats are going to go blowing by them. So they're going to deal with their wake one way or another. But I guess they've got a better shot that those boats are going to be able to go around them. So I would expect Jolly Roger should go next. And that's that boat we're looking at right there. So that is an Aki Mannerfeld 28-foot bat boat. They were the boats that were run by Chris Rendell in his series. That one's an open cockpit boat, and they built that boat and configured it with outboards, which I think is the first one with outboards on that one also. And it's got a massive fuel tank in it, and it's got 3 fuel tanks in it actually. And they set it up because they were going to run the Catalina race and ultimately ended up, or the San Francisco run, and actually ended up backing out of it.
Looks like these guys are going to put on a little show for us and have a few boats start at the same time.
So the closest to the screen, that's Heatwave. On the outside, the yellow boat, that is Miss Wex. And the boat in the middle is Patriotic Duty. So I guess they decided they're all going to go at once. And then the guys in Jolly Roger, Nigel, and Tim decided that they wanted to go. Is it Tim in the boat or Richard Gunn in the boat with him?
Oh, it's Tim in the boat. Richard Gunn is crew handing, making sure the truck and everything's clean. Yeah, it's Nigel and Tim.
So they're going to start after that. So the boat we see in the middle, drop back just a little bit, is the Outer Limits. Now these are all open cockpit boats. So when there's a closed cockpit boat, they do not have a speed limit. They can run as fast as they want to speed, hammer down, let it go. Okay. These open cockpit boats, they are limited to 100 miles an hour. If they exceed 100 miles an hour, they get a penalty.
That was really pretty. Miss Specs came around that buoy 7 nice and Patriotic Duty. On the outside, or is that Brian?
I think on the outside here, I think that is Heatwave.
Running good.
They're all
1988, yeah.
Right now, they're all running in the upper 60 mile per hour speed range now.
Excellent.
Picking it up into the 70s.
– 93 miles an hour.
That's
96 miles an hour. Now he's reached 100, so now he's got a penalty. Okay.
We hope the helicopter finishes.
Yes.
So maybe Jolly Roger's waiting for the helicopter to come back around it before they make their start. Or is there speed on them? Yeah. They're going 60.
Right about 60.
Okay.
Yep. So they wanted to avoid all the helicopters not going back. So because the helicopter's running over Miss Wex. So that is a Chief.
42 Chief.
And I don't know what power. I don't know what power is in it.
I will find out.
I do know that it has Cruiser 6 outdrives on it.
That I saw. Another one of the classic boats from the Thunderboat Row Day in South Florida. Those manufacturers were all down there. Cigarette, Magnum, Thunderbird, Chief, Apache.
Looks like Patriotic Duty in Miss Wexford.
Yeah, that does look like Patriotic Duty took they went to the inside.
Yeah.
Now this is
right now they're running at 80 miles per hour. So they're up there You should be pulling away from running in the 70s.
Now, this is a record run, so they're not racing each other. They're racing the clock, although those boats are in the same class. So effectively, they are, they are racing each other. But since they all left at the same time, they're going to be pretty close. If they had left staggered like we talked about yesterday, it wouldn't have as much looked like a race.
So although they both look like they're in the same class, technically the Ocean Cup rules break down by length. So the Patriotic Duty boat is just over 45 feet. I think they're 45 feet 10 inches. So that puts them in the over 45 class.
Yeah, I thought that's where those boats were running, but I noticed these dimensions here, so I didn't know what that is. That the?
That's the footprint for the street.
Okay, all right. I'm looking at that going, I think that was a 50-foot outer limits, and I know for sure heat wave is not 40 feet.
Yeah, no, that's how much space we reserved for the boats on Maine. Yeah.
Okay, there you go.
So they're different classes, but they are going to be very similar.
Boat with the power out there really is Patriotic Duty. And they said that they ran the entire San Francisco to Long Beach run in the 1350 mode. So I don't know if they're running in 1350 mode right now. I don't know that it has to run in 1350 mode to run 100 miles an hour. Probably run pretty close to that in 1100s, I would think.
I would think so too. These engines are dual fuel engines. If you've got a tank full of really good racing fuel, you can run them at a higher output just by inserting a different key into the panel. And then if you've got a load of normal pump gas, you can run it as a
Jolly Roger looks like 20% Jolly Roger or Revelation.
It looks like Jolly Roger because the deck is all white.
Yeah.
So the Lady Craft has the top of that deck where covering up the open bow is blue. When you switch bobs, you get more power, but the computer's running your hours differently. The night you and I were talking yesterday, the total difference in what you've done with the QC4V motor compared to what we used to do with the old Root supercharged stuff, just trying to keep the thing alive for a warranty, a brief warranty period, or keep it alive for a race. These things, they come with a factory warranty. Well, a good track, I mean, the 1100 mode, you get a year. That's unheard of at that kind of horsepower output.
Well, that's where we started over. Actually, the impetus for the design of that engine was recognizing that automotive blocks from Cruiser from General Motors, those were under pressure to get more and more fuel efficient cars to get lighter. And the fuel economy is what drove them to use smaller engines and turbochargers on the automotive side. Well, eventually you recognize that as boats were getting bigger and consumers wanted more power, the automotive engine was not going to be the platform that would continue to supply adequate power. So I eventually convinced the folks at Mercury and Brunswick, our parent company, to fund the development of what came to be known as the QC4V, which is 4 cams and 4 valves per cylinder. And it is essentially a scaled up style of an Indy car engine, with the bottom end being very robust and cross bolts in every direction. Make sure all the moving bits stay in their proper places. And then we optimized for the fuel. In going to a 4 valve and twin cam drive, it takes all of the slop out of the upper ends. When you're running the big GM based power plants, when you get up into the 1,000, 1,100, 1,200 horsepower range, you're actually starting to fly the valve train. To get enough open time to get fuel in there and to bring in enough air, because it's basically a controlled explosion. It's a bomb going off. So the more you really belong, was to bring out geometry, and we both wanted to fit closest to England as the big block GM-based engines. So it came out of that concept. And,
How many components within that platform are carryover from a GM platform or the traditional platform, or is it box up?
the latter. It is Mercury's own block. The crank, the pistons, connecting rods, it's 100% Mercury Racing developed product. Argument with the finance people to be able to continue this.
I'll bet the board meetings were intense.
Well, I'm not going to share the inside conversation.
Come on, Fred, that's what everybody's listening for. That's what they want to hear.
Yeah, but I'm switching you back to the race. Look at Miss Wex here. They look good, don't they?
Yeah, that boat's
That's
beautiful.
a beautiful boat. It's
condition.
running great.
Look at that.
Beautiful conditions today.
Yeah,
It was a
this
little windy yesterday afternoon, so everybody's kind of wondering if it was going to stack up. Now on the backside of the island, that's where it has a tendency to get bad. But this is beautiful water.
Yeah, and those waves are in a frequency that the boat's carrying beautifully through the water.
This is another family team, a father-son team. Eric and Mox are. This is another family team that Eric and Mox are in the father-son team, and then you have the father-daughter team on the Revelation Racing team.
Yeah, there's something cool about racing with your son or your daughter. I raced with my son a couple of times, got him involved. He grew up around it and didn't want to have anything to do with it until suddenly we were out testing at the factory one day and pulled back into the factory, pulls his helmet off, and there's one of his friends and their dad rolling out of the factory in a John boat, just admiring the hardware. And he comes rolling in a race boat. All of a sudden, all right, this is kind of cool. I can do this.
Yeah, the father-son relationship in our household was a little bit different than that. I set up race boats at Lake X, and every time race time came around, my father would give the boat to one of his dealers to race, and I got pulled out of it. I finally did race with Bill Saroy, but it was after I said I had no interest in racing. And then my dad said, "What, you don't have any interest?" And I said, "No, I've done too many of these. It's not worth it. I'm done." And that's when I got my first reverse psychology, got me into the cockpit with Bill. And my first race was around Long Island, and we set a record that I was glad I had Bill at the helm. I was just doing the navigating, but we set a record at 72 miles per hour in the 32-foot Bertram Nautek, and we thought we were on top of the world. And of course, it was the Hennessy Cup, so the Hennessy reps filled a nice big trophy full of Hennessy and wanted us to drink it for the camera. And all we wanted was a cup of water.
Yeah, right. Maybe a small glass of Hennessy. I don't need a giant bunch of it. So we're looking at Miss Wex out there. As they're zooming in, giving us a different shot. So we've started to lose the boats. It's about 26 miles to Ship Rock. And the island itself is about 26 miles long. So they go around the isthmus and the northwest end of the island, all the way around the backside, and they cut across where the isthmus is. They go straight across, and they come around on the southwest side of the island, come to Avalon, go past Avalon, which is where the historic casino is located. That is kind of the iconic picture of Catalina Island. And they go all the way back to Ship Rock, which is one of the most popular dive spots off the California coast. All right, so now we see the boats have started to spread out.
So the helicopter's here. I'm just gonna grab that mic. So the helicopters out front, I can see Heat Wave. They're south of the marine farm. They're south of the restricted area. So they look like they may be a little bit off course. Normally the boats would be heading north of that red restricted area. So I'm looking at the Yachtbot trackers right now for those of you at home. If you are on oceancup.live on the right side of the screen, you can see the tracking. And Heat Wave's going. Yeah, they're 6 miles an hour, so it looks like maybe they're having some sort of problems right now with that boat. Helicopter's still going 90, so they're probably out front with Miss Wax and Patriotic Duty.
And they appear to be around the backside because we've lost the feed of their speeds, which we knew would happen when we went around.
Yeah, halfway over. So
So it looks like they're halfway.
yeah,
Well, the helicopter's halfway anyway, a little past halfway.
right.
Want to thank Lucy. We got a note back, some more details on the Miss Wex Chief. I knew the boat was built by Bobby Cicente at Apache, but it is indeed a 42. Did a nice job on that boat. Didn't get a chance to see the engine configuration, so Lucy, if you know what that is, let me know.
So Patriotic Duty's back in cell phone range, and the helicopter's right with them.
All right, so that's Patriotic Duty way out front.
I'm not sure where Wax is. They're offline. You're gonna have to kind of relay my messages because I don't have a mic.
Well, you look at that onboard of how on from Patriotic Duty, it just looks like, it doesn't even look like they're moving. It's so smooth. Well, actually, that's because the screen's not moving yet. So there you go. Before somebody answers me online and says that's because it's not moving, Martin.
They are moving.
Now it's moving.
They are moving at 98 miles per hour right now, just under their 100-mile-an-hour cap.
So I'm sure somebody's job right there is watching and taking a look at that and going, make sure you stay on. You're approaching that number. Breakout speed.
Well, they're
Unless
doing.
the helicopter's gonna get penalty.
Yeah, Patriotic Duty is right around 92, 93 miles per hour. So they're booking it about as fast as they dare.
So heat wave is showing 0.6 miles an hour. So they're moving. We've got a signal from them. So there's a problem. So they are stopped apparently. All but stopped.
This is the time it would be. And I don't think it's anything catastrophic, but you never know.
Yeah, that
Right,
could just
right.
be, and that could just be drift at a half a mile an hour.
Yes. Well, they're picking up some speed. They're
There we go.
a little over 5 now.
Those are two buddies that put that boat together themselves. Brian and Matt. I think Matt actually races cars, and he brought a couple of sponsors with him to help put this boat together. Yeah, it looks like they're getting up and going again.
Possibly running on a single drive and engine because their speeds are just barely above 30.
Yeah, and those were just factory 540 Bulldogs. There's the pylon view happening from Patriotic Duty. Those guys are all, those seats are all on suspensions, which takes the edge off in a sit-down boat for sure.
It looks like Heatwave's got it back together now. They're up in the mid 60s, so they're running.
So whatever happened, they got the problem solved.
Well, that's good to see.
So I'm sure they could probably fix just about anything that came up as long as they didn't lose parts out the sides of anything. So right now it looks like Patriotic Duty's out front. And what view is that they jilled of one of the boats?
The red one, that's the Jolly Roger onboard camera.
Okay, so that's the bat boat.
Yeah, I know one of the cameras was mounted just behind the windshield,
Right.
to keep it dry and to make sure if it came off the mount, it would stay in the boat.
Right. All right, there's another onboard view. Is approaching Ship Rock. Don't know what happened to Miss Wex.
Well, their speed signal is still showing them in the mid 80s.
All right, so they've got to be running close. That's the yellow text. Okay, so they must be overlapping on our screen right there. So they're probably pretty close to Patriotic Duty and the helicopter. So the helicopter's there with all of them. And the reason we're not seeing a helicopter shot is the helicopter transmitter is different than what you're seeing on the boats. So it's hard for them to get us a signal back of live streaming the footage we're seeing there. So they are just approaching Ship Rock, where they're going to make a right-hand turn. Then they're going to go around the island counterclockwise. I don't know about you, Fred, but I can't read what it says on that big screen, and I'm wearing glasses and it's blurry.
Everything's blurry in my world.
Well, some of the technology we've got out there is YachtBot, which is a tracking system that was from Dunedin, New Zealand. They were established in 2007. According to them, their technology plays a key role in creating entertainment, drawing in larger spectator crowds, and capturing the imaginations of TV and webcast audiences around the world. Many of our customers, like Extreme Sailing Series, Volvo Ocean Race, or XCAT Powerboat Racing, use their products to create their own 2D and 3D animations of live sporting events. My first experience with that was in wasn't Aqua Cross, it was Aqua Bike. They had a race in Guadalupe, and we were announcing it, and they ran from one island to another, well outside of visual range, and we were able to track everything they did the entire way. So they were using a satellite system, but it was really not much bigger than an iPad, the whole system. So it's amazing what we can do with some of these boats. And getting back to long distance races as opposed to what offshore itself has transitioned to over the last maybe 2 decades is a little more something that more resembles closed course racing. In reality, I think that does kind of relate more to how people boat, but it definitely changed how they had to be set up and how the engineering for the boats were. It's not about a long straight line. You've got to still be able to turn this boat at speed.
And the navigation has gotten so much better. When I raced back in the late 1960s with a compass, they would oscillate a lot like the boats did. So you were
And a stopwatch.
and a stopwatch
Yeah.
and a grease pencil on the deck showing your heading, and you did your best to keep it pointed in the general direction. But now with the navigation systems and this feedbacks is just amazing. We're getting real-time speeds, we're getting real-time boat positions, and those all improve both the feedback that the boat racers give themselves, plus the ability to share that with folks that are not in a boat. I mean, this kind of a broadcast this morning is really eye-opening for me, because I haven't sat in one of these looking at a screen like this before, and I've watched it online with some of the other events, but as a spectator, not as a participant in the reading of the gauges and all of that. It's really come a long way.
And the technology of this, all, you know, everything that happens on the boats, also that technology transition translates to the consumer as well. So this technology here, this kind of stuff can send back all kinds of telemetry data to the race teams, to their crew chiefs. Some of these systems are able to track everything that's going on with the motor real time. Of course, you guys initiated, all your motors had recordings of all of it, so you can plug in and you can look back at what happened and track back to the failure point and see what happened. So the technology evolution has changed. Like you said, you were stopwatch and a compass when we started. For the Catalina race, you weren't allowed to use a GPS, even though GPSs were around. And in racing, we weren't allowed to use GPSs for quite a while. They resisted that. They didn't finally let us start putting them on the boats for our navigation. They gave us our coordinates, and we had to put it on there, figure out what those headings were, and write it on a chart on the boat. And that's what the third guy in the boat did. So you're watching live coverage of the 2023 Ocean Cup Pacific Rome Run in conjunction with the Pacific Air Show. An amazing air show. The planes start flying today at about 10:30, culminating this afternoon with the Thunderbirds. And actually, when I was walking through the hotel this morning, all the pilots, the Thunderbird crews, were all downstairs in the lobby. So if you're anywhere near Huntington Beach, you might want to head down to the beach this afternoon. Today, tomorrow, and Sunday. So they've zoomed in on us on our screen for where the boats are on YachtBot. And we just saw Patriotic Duty look like they slowed down. So I'm guessing they slowed down the speed, sped right back up. So that must have been the turn, getting to where they are, because now they're bumping it back up. Or they're starting to get to the backside of the island also, which could be a little bumpier.
They're still running in around 70 miles per hour, as is, WEX is a little bit slower than that. I've lost the speed feed on several boats. So we had a question about whether Nigel was still at speed, and I can't tell you because it's not indicating any speed right now on our feed.
Trying to look and see where those boats are. It looks like there's still a couple of boats that haven't made it to the halfway point across the channel yet. So we still got Patriotic Duty and Miss Wex. Want to get the heat wave numbers. I'm glad those guys got back up and running. It was just so fun talking to those guys, and it was actually a little emotional talking about how that boat, it was his dad's dream, and he was a little boy when they got the boat and was able to get that boat and completely refurbish it and get it back in the water.
We can't confirm the position or speeds of Jolly Roger. I've had a couple of inquiries about whether they're in the race or whether they've withdrawn, but can't tell from here just yet.
Maybe we can get an update from Janet if they're still out there running.
We'll get an answer to you as quickly as we know. What an interesting question. Who's the guy with you that's announcing? That would be me, I presume.
Yeah, that would be Fred Kiekafer, unless they were asking you who the guy is sitting next to you, which could be also. We should be joined by Eric. Oh, well, Eric just walked in. I was going to say, I was just looking down, waiting for Eric Nordstock to get here.
Yeah. You guys asking who this gentleman is? Getting texts? You might want to introduce Mr.
Well,
We
folks, I introduced at the beginning, so if you weren't here, this is Mr. Fred Kiekafer. So if that name rings a bell, that's because he was instrumental in bringing Mercury to where it is today, especially on the Mercury racing side. Just the technologies you see today, culminating in the QC4V motors, the number 6 Speedmaster drive, the stuff that completely revolutionized the production side of the business as well as high performance. I mean, you are synonymous with that 100%.
Well, I had a very, very good team assembled there, and their work continues even after I retired. So I'm happy to see that they keep knocking it out of the park. I can't take credit for any of the new V8s. I was only there when we approved the project.
Okay. We'll put Eric right here.
It's got to be interesting seeing the evolution of the outboards also. Going from, the most we thought we could get was a 250, then went to the 300s, 350s, 400s, 450s, now a 500. The V10s for the 400Rs and the 400s.
I was surprised and delighted when I saw the first V8s. And I thought, well, I wonder how long before racing is going to have a version of that. And it wasn't long after the 450 came out, and I went out and bought some for my boat.
Yeah.
So they are amazing power plants. And now they've got the 500 they just introduced. So they keep rocking and rolling, and I'm happy to see it.
I think that platform can handle. I think they've set it so that my understanding is that what they built, way they built the bottoms, they can go up from there, add more power without completely re-engineering the platform. And now that they got the V12 platform or V10 platform, the V12 is on the big 600s, but those aren't set for racing or high performance.
Can I have you guys scoot over just a tiny bit?
Yep.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to scoot over and get Eric in here with us.
Yep.
How's it going, Eric? Good to see you, buddy.
Good morning, Martin. Nice to see you.
Yeah.
Fred,
Good to see you as well.
nice to see you, sir.
Yes.
Come on into the screen a little bit here.
There you go.
There.
There you go.
So now we're kind of at that point where we've lost a lot of the boats. Jolly Rogers now we see them running. They're at 75 miles an hour. So they are running at speeds that are pretty good compared to even the big boats. The other boats have got to be around the backside of the island. We've lost communication with them as far as watching our yacht bot feed and the speeds. And the reason that we have Jolly Roger is because they're still on this side of the island.
And I'm going to suppose that they're running in the upper 80s to low 90s based on the fact that the helicopter is running at 93. So he's probably hanging with the big boys.
Yep.
So the helicopters are the black number there.
Yep.
Okay.
Helicopter's a black number.
Okay.
And we must have a good signal from him because of his altitude. So it's shooting over the island, getting to here.
Yeah, the water conditions look pretty good out there.
They
from
did. I
off
was
the pier.
surprised. The little bit of fog, but really once you got down there, the visibility looked like
Yeah, the visibility
essentially
was.
unlimited.
Yeah, you couldn't see Catalina, but once they get probably even a quarter of the way, I'm sure they could see Catalina by then.
One thing about these kind of sea and sky conditions is it's really hard to read the water because it gets very flat. Your vision gets very flat in terms of seeing the swells. Everything kind of blends together, the color of the water, the fog, the sky. So it's a good thing that it's not bumpier than it is, because that would be a lot of surprises.
When that happens, your senses have to take over. You can feel when the boat leaves,
Yep.
to throttle back. You can feel when it re-enters, to put the throttle back into it. And it becomes much more zen-like. as you try to read it, because you can't see it, but you can sure feel it when you launch.
100%.
Definitely feel it, and you can hear it. You know, the engine's revving. Oops.
Well, that's what your throttle man's for.
It's supposed to be doing, yeah.
I got a quick lesson in that sitting when we ran in the Super V with the front to back seating, the single canopy front to back, and sitting in the back seat, it's all zen. Because you really have a difficult time reading anything.
Well, we picked up some speeds again, so we must be back out where we can see them. WEX is up at 80. Patriotic Duty is running close to 90, or mid 80s to 90. And Heat Wave's at 70. So we're moving.
Nigel's at the island.
Nigel has rounded the island, or he's at the island.
He's at the island. That's the Jolly Roger boat. That's our Aki Mannerfeld 28-foot bat boat.
Now, what's the record again? I had a Facebook Live going from the end of the pier. So what is it? 101 with Nigel
For the
round and back. From a
Well,
couple
with
years
the-
ago.
around it was 112.
It was 112.
Was 112.
Okay. 112.
And the Jolly Roger last year did it in 142, hour 42 at 65 for their average. So they're hoping to beat their record. Revelation's looking to beat their record. Patriotic Duty's looking to beat their record.
Which we just saw them 2 weeks ago.
Mark, can you-
Beat Bob Nordskog's record coming down the coast.
That had to have been a heck of a run. I was talking with Alan about it yesterday. He said ultimately the water was nice, but you run along, you think it's smooth, and you hit one of those holes that we're talking about. You just difficult to read. He said fog was their biggest challenge.
Yeah.
So their visibility started to get limited.
But one thing about the fog, which is nice, so it kind of holds the wind down too a little bit, you know. So I don't think they hit a lot of little chop. You know, it was pretty glassy the whole way down from what I
Which is
remember.
nice.
So, which is a nice run. Yeah, there's some beautiful shots online of the boat coming in into the Marina Del Rey area. I don't know if you saw those. But
I didn't see him. He was explaining to me they just kind of blasted into Marina Del Rey and
Yes.
turned right around and kept on coming down this way.
Yeah, they blasted inside the jetty area a little bit. Kind of threw some of the sailboaters and other guys for a whirl for a moment, you know. But yeah, no, they did a great job. It was a good run for them. You know, they beat the record by over an hour, about an hour and 2 minutes, I think. So, you know, coming down all the way down the coast, that's a fast run.
Yep. Well, I think a lot of that also is the technology change. I mean, you're talking about 35 years ago, there weren't step bottom boats, didn't have the kind of horsepower reliability that we have today. So you have horsepower and a drive that you can run that kind of power for that long. You know, we're going to see those kind of records starting to fall, which is really what Ocean Cup is about, is getting back to some of these long distance, old school races. I always used to tell people that in the old days, it used to be if you'd leave Miami, run to the Bahamas, if you made it back, you probably won.
Well, it was a whole different kind of event because the boat speeds were so much slower, even at record pace. The original Gateway ran over on one day and laid overnight and came back on the second day. I raced that with Bill Saroy, and I think it was 68. And crossing the Gulf Stream, you know, you talk about the holes, you come across there and everybody says, oh, the seas are only 6 to 8. Okay,
Yeah, only.
well, so only 6 to 8. Well, that's flat sea to peak,
Right.
Yeah.
which means it's 12 to 16.
Yeah.
And you never know, because that shear line, you can be all of us looking flat and all of a sudden you're falling into a really big hole. And as you're falling, it's coming back up at you
Yeah.
as they go back out of phase or in phase, however you want to look at it. And then bang. I still remember my last boat race was the Gateway. I went through that upholstery like somebody shot it, and I found myself on the deck. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm sure glad Bill Saroy's driving. And I looked over and he was flat on the deck next to me. Nobody hit the helm. And we got back up eventually. So we're coming back. We got Odell Lewis and front of us, and we're trying to just stay just within sight because we knew to get on the inside, we'd trim it out. Our boat
Just standing up in the bolsters
Yeah.
back then,
yeah,
you kind of bracing yourself a little bit.
you're holding on.
Use your legs to do it.
Yeah.
Your legs, I'll tell you what.
You're wedged in, and you're
trying to ride in the trough, getting, surfing the waves and that
and you
sort of
can't.
thing.
You
So,
couldn't span them in a shorter boat. You also couldn't span them because of your speed.
yeah, exactly.
And worse, you would sometimes trip and stuff.
Yeah.
Which
Or
is not a good thing.
Art Lilly was explaining to me. He says, "Nelson, if you have an 8-footer coming at you, you take 2 feet over the deck. If it's like, wow, that's interesting. That probably works real well with a number 6 drive. And I'm really not going to be able to hold on to too many of those in a Bravo drive when we were out there racing." All right. Well, we see Heat Wave. Looks like they're headed back towards
Towards it.
So they're heading back towards Shiprock. So they've gone around the island already.
No, Heat Wave could have. They were lost over here for a while, so they probably just found the
Probably
island.
just found it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Jolly Roger appears to be coming around.
Yeah, Jolly Rogers is looking good back there.
So we're still, let's see, we're still missing our 3 fastest or our 2 fastest boats.
Yeah, they're probably down here in the dead zone. We'll see them pop up around Avalon for sure.
And is Revelation still out there running?
Checking.
We don't have their speed. Oh, thank you. You got one? Okay. He's got one over there.
It's always a fun run out to Catalina and around the island, and beautiful sights over there. Such a gorgeous island. And I guess last week they had that fun run out there.
Who puts on the fun run out here?
Eric Briner.
Is it Eric's event?
Yeah.
Yeah. Eric Briner, who's up in the helicopter right now. Have we seen any live feed from the helicopter yet?
We did
We have.
did early when they first
Okay,
left. We
when
saw
they
some.
first- okay, terrific.
I would imagine we're not going to see any until they get maybe half the way back. So Revelation, we're not getting any speed from. So either they're on the backside of the island, and we don't even see them.
And Heat Wave's moving pretty good though.
Yeah, Heat Wave and Jolly Roger are both back up there in 70 plus miles per hour. They're doing well.
Is Heat Wave the father-daughter team, or is that the other boat? Which is the father?
Heat Wave is a couple buddies. The father-daughter team is Revelation,
Revelation. Okay.
and the father-son team is Miss Wex.
Okay. Oh, that's nice. Little family teams, and terrific. It's good to see that.
I'm watching the speed drop on Heat Wave. I wonder what's going on there.
Well, outside, I was looking at the swells, and looks to me they got like a 3 to 4 foot swell out there. So it's not too bad, but definitely, something, a little south swell coming
He's
through.
in heat wave.
Right.
Is that Matt Field at Heatwave?
A professional automotive drift racer.
Yeah, he's. I spoke with him yesterday in the heat wave boat, and he helped him get that boat put back together, and also brought a couple of his sponsors over there. Lucas Oil's one of them. K&N Filters brought them over to help out.
Oh, terrific. And where are they from? They're California based
Yep,
team?
Morgan Hill.
Okay. Yeah, it's fun
Says
watching
Matt
those
is,
drift
Matt is
drivers.
best known for his aggressive driving style and no quit attitude. Well, you pretty much have to have a no quit attitude in this, because you break on the backside of the island, it is a long paddle home.
Yeah, you always feel bad for the patrol boat guy that has to tow them back, you know.
I mean, on the
It's a
right
long
side,
tow.
you throw out a dive flag and enjoy the reef.
There you go.
I watched the Italians one time. They lost control of their boat and ended up high on a pile of rocks. And the crew guy disappeared under the deck, came out with a red and white checkered tablecloth, a bottle of wine,
There
and
you
some
go.
cheese. I said, these Italians, they know how to race.
They know how to race.
It's planning for failure is not necessarily a winning attitude.
No, not at all. But on the upside, that might have been their plan for celebration of victory.
Good point.
My grandfather used to bring a little duffel bag with him when he would race. And in his little duffel bag, he had put a couple like peanut butter and jelly sandwiches and some water. And then he always had his little bottle of Hennessy cognac in there that he had to use that one time when the boat sunk. You know, if you've heard, I think we told that story before, where the boat sunk and he was out on a life raft for 24 hours. They couldn't find him, and they finally found him. He got picked up by a Russian freighter apparently the next day. And this is when, obviously before the internet and everything goes viral, but this particular story went viral because when he came in, they asked him, "Oh, how did you survive out there?" You know, because he was all by himself. He dropped off one of the crew members on a little island out there off of the Bahamas. And they asked him, "Oh, how did you survive overnight?" And he said, "Well, I had my bottle of Hennessy cognac with me." And then Hennessy actually picked that up, and it went all over everywhere. And they, went viral, basically, as we would say now. And ever since that day, they presented him with a bottle of 1913 Hennessy, which was his birth year, because of that, as well as a anytime, anywhere. And I know this for a fact because I was there a couple of times where he was in the world at the time, having dinner or wherever he was, that if he would call a certain phone number, and within a half hour there would be a bottle of Hennessy cognac on the table. And that was all part of the deal of that going viral, and he really spread, I had my Hennessy cognac. That kept me, alive and feeling good overnight, floating in a life raft.
Yeah.
Obviously,
Funny
I
story.
could have said a few things at the Hennessy Cup.
Yeah.
I don't know what I was thinking.
Yeah.
But I was only
You
20.
You didn't know the power.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh. And my driver at one point always carried a duffel bag on that had a change of clothes. And friend, why do we need this? In case we get wet.
Yeah, we get wet. Right. That makes
Okay.
sense too.
I'm really hoping that that's not part of the
Yeah.
plan. And then the one time we did go over at 90 miles an hour, all right, that was okay thinking. You had a waterproof bag.
Were you in a capsule boat at the time or not?
No.
So you ended up
Open
in the
cockpit.
water. Yeah.
Yep. I have a titanium plate in my shoulder as a reminder of that.
Oh, good. So you make a lot of noise when you go through the airport.
Every so often, if they're set sensitive enough, it'll raise a question or two anyway.
The only time I ever got wet was changing a broken propeller.
They threw you in the water.
I
huh,
was
Ted?
low man on the totem pole. Here's the wrench, here's the block of wood, and I'll hand you the new propeller. Don't drop
Yeah,
it.
don't drop it.
But we
If you
used,
Yeah,
drop
don't
it, you're
drop
going
it.
down
Yeah.
and getting it.
we used to carry spare props because we were accustomed to them throwing the blades.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, there's another area where the technology dramatically improved.
100%.
we were making propellers before I sold my company to Mercury. One of our main product lines was offshore propellers, cleavers, and we did everything in the world to keep those things from breaking. We hipped them in nitrogen, oxygen, some kind of combination under pressure to densify the castings. We shot peened the trailing edges and polished the corners, and I mean we did everything. But we got a prop that lived longer, but not forever.
Right.
And they continue to improve. And now at Mercury Racing, with the CNC propellers, I actually machine them based on the horsepower of the engines. So they can have a thinner prop with an 860 than they would have with a 1350 or a 1650.
Yeah, that's why you have to let them know what the horsepower is on your prop when you order it. They're rated.
And that's made a big difference. A little project I did after I left, I actually had one of my former customers send me, I don't know how they managed to capture it, but sent me the piece that broke. And I digitized it for my own propeller design. But I just used one I already knew because we had done it before. But this was apparently a blade that slung and stuck in the underside of the wing.
Gosh.
So they were able to keep the blade.
They had to have stuck in the boat somewhere, stuck in the swim platform. Or all right, looks like we've got Patriotic Duty speed back up again. They're running up into the upper 90s.
Good,
So
yeah.
it looks like they are actually just past Avalon.
Yeah, they're running well.
Don't see Miss Wex yet. So Heatwave is we show Heatwave is down around the northwest side of the island.
What's our elapsed time since they started?
They started almost right up 7 o'clock. And then 3 of the boats all took off together. Patriotic Duty, Miss Wex, and Heatwave.
Actually, the 4 of them.
Pretty much went
Nigel's
free.
boat took off too at the same time.
Yeah, it looked like Nigel was back behind
Just a
him.
little bit back behind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Patriotic Duty's running 95 miles an hour right now. Jolly Roger's moving too for a little 28-foot boat on the backside of that island. They're moving just under 70 miles an hour.
He's booking it pretty good.
Now, it might be a little bumpier on that northwest side of the island because we saw all the boats slow down there a little bit. We haven't gotten any information on Revelation Racing. That's that father and daughter team.
Yeah, Fred, I found the Powerboat magazine here. You remember this, Neil?
I remember that very well.
I don't know if everybody can see this here. But
Yeah,
Fred did a little run. Thank you. Still has the little
Yeah, from Miami to Key West, I raced a Ferrari, driven by the editor of Motor Trend magazine. He was the, I think, road test editor, and Michael Brockman. He was not shy about running and jumping in the car and taking off. And we were still tied up at the dock at the Marriott Marina, and we had a brand new nav system in the boat. The boat I had just taken delivery, so I had no calibration on the fuel tanks and fuel levels, all that kind of thing. And I handed the manual to Lisa Norskog to figure out how to work the GPS. And Brockman was already probably a third of the way to Miami before we got into the open water where we could run. And then we could see him on the 8 Mile Bridge, and he could see us. So we were lying to one another about where we were. But we ended up, I stopped to fuel because I figured he was going to get stopped by the police at some point. But he did. But he talked his way out of it. I'm a professional driver with motor trade, blah, blah, blah. And the cops let him go with a warning.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm racing this boat that you can see out there.
I'd like to see you try that today.
Oh, well, today's traffic, you'd never
Right.
never get to, I mean, it'd be like Tuesday. Before, I had to set a record. I made it by Monday. It was a lot of fun. And we ended up with the cover on Powerboat magazine and 10 pages covering the run inside. And we had 6 or 8 pages in Motor Trend. So even though Brockman got to lay in my boat hammock, I still think we won.
Yeah,
There
he
you
said
go.
he beat you by what, 30 minutes or something?
But it
or-
was just whatever it was the amount of time it took me to put the
to
fuel in
put
the
the
boat.
fuel in.
But
Yeah,
I didn't want to take the risk of getting
Running out of gas.
running out of gas or getting bad fuel
Right.
and having to work that out. So it wasn't really a race, but it was.
Right.
of course
Right.
it is. Anytime
Look,
you get two racers in
Any vehicle side by side.
exactly. It's
We raced
it's a race.
go-karts. I mean, we were racing at the championships in South Padre Island. And,
Yeah.
I don't know what the guy at the go-kart track was thinking when we all showed up in racing jerseys to let us run, but they only let us run once. We're looking at all of our start times of when the boats left. So first boat went off at 7:04. Jolly Roger was the last one that went off at 7:08:33. So
Yeah.
they started pretty close. Patriotic Duty was 7:08:31. Wex at 7:08:28. Heatwave at 7:08:25. And that would be Revelation Racing at 7:04:46. They went out first. All 5 boats have passed Ship Rock. So now we're just waiting to get our data. We don't have any speed data on anybody right now. So we'll wait for them to pop back up on the screen. Well, I'm glad to see that Revelation did get around the Ship Rock because we hadn't seen any information on them. Those guys actually set the record for Palm Beach, the Palm Beach event this year in just over 2 hours. And that's that father-daughter team.
Yeah, that's beautiful to see the father-daughter team and the father-son team. Did you ever run with your father in any way, Fred? Or maybe there's a story on that.
there's a little story there.
There's a long story there. First of all, my father never ran in the race boats, except occasionally during setup at Lake X. He would be, which was Mercury's test site in Central Florida. He'd go out in some of the boats, but he never raced. I attempted to race a number of times. I was down there. I was trained by a number of the best guys in the business how to rig boats. So I would rig a boat that I was promised I could race in some event, and at the last minute, my dad would take it away and give it to a dealer. And usually Dave Craig down in Miami, and Dave would go win the damn race with a boat that I had rigged. And I finally got to race when I refused to race. You losing interest, son? So I played the reverse psychology game, and I finally ended up racing as a co-pilot with Bill Saroy, and ran 2 races with him. And I definitely liked it until I got beat up pretty bad crossing the Gulf Stream, and that was when I decided I was going to do something different than race.
Yeah, between your father and yourself, just innovators, and have been just so involved in the sport for so many years, and have done so much for the sport and brought so much, technology to the sport. It's incredible. Found some old photos I've been going through boxes of old photos, and found a lot of old photos of your father with the old Kikafer, Aero Marine, Bob Magoon boats and things like that. And, really great shots of him. And it's terrific that you're here and you came out to support the Ocean Cup. And how do we get some of the East Coast guys and some other, some of the big players to come out here? We'd love to see them come out on the West Coast and, next year, and get a big fleet of boats out here.
Yeah, it would be nice. I mean, I'm here, supporting the Ocean Cup because I really enjoyed, and I think there's great benefit in big water racing, getting back into the ocean, because we learn so much. Not always positive things from positive lessons, but a lot of positive things from negative lessons.
Right.
Yeah.
When you break it, you need to fix it.
Yeah.
And somebody's going to break it. And it's better that you find it as a manufacturer or as a boat racer. And then the evolution continues on the product. We learn so much from racing. And that's quite frankly one of the reasons that Mercury Racing continues to exist as a business, is that we learn a lot. Mercury Racing was credited for higher pressure in the Optimax 2-stroke outboards, which corrected an early problem that Mercury had with their production engines. Advanced midsection was learning that from braking midsections and racing conditions, the the key gate for stern drive, which became the Mercruiser number 6, that was there because the horsepower in the race engines kept getting bigger and the drives started breaking. It's like dropping a big block into a Volkswagen Beetle and expecting the rear end to handle the torque.
Right.
It ain't going to happen. So there's just so much you learn when you're really pushing the equipment hard. And you can still learn some of that with the lighter, faster looping of offshore boats that are really inshore boats that just happen to be on a beach. Real offshore brakes equipment because it's a much harsher environment.
Yeah.
And the boat manufacturers were in the same, the top boat manufacturers. It changed the technology and how they had to build their boats. Blowing out stringers. How you rig the boat is as important as what you rig it with. So learning how to rig a boat so that it can survive those environments is part of the same process.
Laminate structure, the reinforcements, all of that improved through racing. And it was very interesting to see that as the boats have gotten faster and there have been a few shortcuts to kind of cut weight, you see sometimes the hulls and the decks separate when they get into a relatively rough condition, even on this inside.
We see that. I seem to see a lot of that in the
The
small outboard cats. They keep trying to push the envelope on those boats, and they're trying to do it with weight. And they get these boats out there, and they're not as stiff. All right, so it looks like Miss Wex.
Oh, they're back up. Yeah.
They're heading home.
So they are ahead of
Patriotic
Duty.
Well, we don't have a tracker on Patriotic Duty. They fell off line again. So I don't
okay.
know. So we'll have to compare them to them, and they're down because there's no speed. So they'll be back once they get back in this good cell range. That's where
Maybe
they were
once the
last
helicopter-
seen. That's where they were last seen.
When the helicopter gets with them, maybe we'll see more.
So
Looks
Miss Wax is back online. It looks like Jolly Roger's back online.
Heat wave and
Yeah, Heat Wave is on the backside right now. So I'm assuming Patriotic Duty and Miss Wex are pretty much together. That means we got about 26 miles back to the pier, right?
Yep. Here you go. Here's some history all on one page.
yeah,
for
I found
you,
this
Fred.
old brochure here in my grandfather's files. I thought Fred would be interested in this.
That's it's too bad we can't share this, but it's probably a piece of literature. I'm going to guess this is from the early 1977. There's Betty Cook, racing Mercruisers back then before she and her team created the Cayman Drive.
Looks like they've got a problem.
Oh, Mix West
Oh, yeah.
Wex is down to 20 miles an hour.
Nigel's flying the boat there. In the little bat boat.
Boy, he's got
He's
yeah,
close to 90. Well,
And that-
he is 90. He was 90 there for a second.
he's definitely flying it.
And that's a pair of Mercury 300R outboards, the 60-degree V6 outboards. V8, I'm sorry, 60-degree V8s.
Okay, Miss West is picking up speed again.
Oh yeah, okay, good. That's good to see.
So Miss Wex, all right, Miss Wex is back up to speed. Now Miss Wex was actually at the fun run last weekend as well.
So Heat Wave is still on the back side, or we just don't have the
No, they're on the back.
they're on the back. Okay.
We don't have tracking speed on them right now. So Jolly Roger and Miss Wex are the only ones we have speed on right now. Miss Wex, they're under 20 miles an hour right now, so something's going on with them.
Yeah.
Patriotic Duty's frozen up. We don't have a speed on them. The last speed we had was 94, and that was almost halfway back across the island to make the right-hander at Ship Rock.
Now, what about our helicopter? Is that did they have to go back in to refuel or anything, or are they just we can't get there?
Yeah, I don't know. We don't have
Feed
the
yet.
helicopter speed anymore.
Yeah, it's kind of dropped off.
Okay, Miss Wex is speeding back up again.
It's amazing though that we have this technology now that we could actually follow the boats and the speed and everything. Back in the old days, as you were talking, Fred, they just took off and you kind of relied on a check boat, at a checkpoint or something. Oh, we see them coming by at this time or whatever, and it'll all come over a radio. but things have really changed dramatically in that fact.
So Miss Wex is back up to speed. Would love to know what's going on that boat. Obviously not going to know till they get back and talk to them about what was happening.
Maybe they hit some kelp and somebody had to run, jump overboard and remove it off the prop.
Well, if they all stay at this pace, we'll be well inside the restricted envelope of the airbox.
Yep. They said that we had to be completely no boats going in there at 9:30. So the rule was going to be if you aren't going to make it by 9:15, then they were going to divert you to Esther, which if you're looking at the screen, that is at the very center of the north part of your screen up at the top. So the little triangle that you see is restricted, is the marine farm. So you have to take that to your starboard. Then they approach the airbox and they'll take the right-hander at the farthest north marker. They'll take a right-hander at that and then come back towards the Huntington Beach Pier, and that's where they'll be clocked for the finish. So Miss Wex is back up to 84 miles an hour again.
Well, that's good. It means it's not really an engine problem, or well, maybe some other issue, but you know, the fact that they're back up to 85, speeds are looking good again. When was the last race that you ran, Fred? You know, how long has it been since you were jumped in the bolsters?
Well, my last race was against that Ferrari to Key West.
Oh, really?
That's been a long time. My last real boat race was Gateway
Was a gate
back in, I think, 68.
Mhm.
So I stayed out of the boat, stayed in the office, and found a lot of really good, talented engineers to hire in, and some good marketing and salespeople, and grew the
Excellent.
spent my time growing the business.
Yeah, excellent. Well, you did a great job with Mercury Racing over the years.
Well, that was a fun job. We had they still have wonderful talent, and they are in the process now of reorganizing, apparently back to a functional leadership style. When I was there, we were one of the focused businesses, and we had our own P&L. We had full accountability for the product, for the pricing, for the marketing and sales of the product. And now, as a philosophy changes at corporate, apparently they're going back to a more functional organization where they're reintegrating some of the functions back into mainstream. The risk, of course, whenever you do that is that you lose the focus and you lose the customer orientation. So it's going to take some discipline and some strong people to carry on. The
Do you
good
still
news,
consult though for them, or you?
no,
still,
I did for a 3-year period after my retirement, and I did go back a couple of times on invitation to participate in events like a dealer meeting. I spoke at the dealer meeting on their 75th anniversary. Had a lot of fun with that. Walked through the success and the failures of leadership over time, because I wanted to make it about Mercury and not about my father, because my father was such a big piece of the history.
Yeah.
It's very easy to get lost in that, because
Yeah.
there are a lot of stories you can share about things that my dad did.
Yeah.
So I made it more about the strength of the organization and the leadership. When it was strong, it was like the flywheel on the engine. It built momentum. And when you had a judgment call, it was maybe a weak leadership for a period of time before it corrected. It would use that momentum to carry on. So you didn't really lose a lot of position. But there were really vigorous debates about technology and where the business should go. And I got to participate in a lot of those, and I won some arguments and I lost some arguments. But in the final analysis, the momentum of that flywheel, that technical capability, allowed the company to continue to prosper. And, you know, we fell a little bit behind the curve with the evolution to 4 strokes. I was a strong proponent of doing that kind of work and was delighted to still be there when they got approved, and first with the Verado, and then second with the next generation Verados with the V8s.
To Eric.
It allowed us to recapture the market share we had lost primarily to Japanese competitors. But we've earned it back because it
100%.
used to be you never saw Mercury. All you saw were Yamahas and Hondas and Suzuki's and Tohatsus and all. It was the Japanese had invaded America again. Yeah, but we repelled them just like we did at the end of World War II.
I think though I think Mercury Racing was still at the pointy end of the development that drove mainline a lot, because you guys were taking stuff and pushing it to the limits. And again, it comes back to what you learn on the race course, what you learn pushing the stuff. You make it so it doesn't break for the consumer. That's how you get to 7-year warranties on an outboard. You can't do that if you don't think the motor's going to last that long. In fact, you got to think it's going to last longer than that if you're going to go for a 7-year warranty.
And in the early days, we weren't really sure. The warranty wars started before the technology caught up to justify the warranties.
Right.
And then you eat a lot of product because you got to take care of the customer.
Yep. You made the promise. You got to.
I've always espoused the rule that the customer is the king. You got to satisfy the customer, and if your product isn't up to the job, you don't belong in the business. So let's earn it the old-fashioned way by having things that don't break. And when we were under the development with the Kike for drive back in 1987, 86 timeframe, we went through, to get 200 hours before the Miami Boat Show in 1988, we went through about 10 engines and 20 transmissions before we found enough time that we were comfortable to introduce the drive.
Yeah.
And my chief engineer at the time, Larry Losey, he said, look at the bright side. We've got a drive that eats engines instead of the other way around. Because that was the problem, the weak link. As the power went up on the racing product and even the consumer product, the drives were too weak. And in fact, the beginning of our business, we started out by making higher performance components for inside and MerCruiser drives.
Looks like the
So Jolly Roger looks like they've made the turn now at Shiprock, and they're now headed back.
with the helicopter right with them, the black
Oh,
dot.
good.
Yep.
So helicopter's right over the top. We still have Miss Wex is almost halfway back. Now we don't know the status of Patriotic Duty because we lost their tracking. So we've got to assume that they're probably pretty close to Miss Wex. And we don't have Heat Wave back up yet. We still have them locked up behind the backside of the island, but that's just a loss of tracking. Miss Wex running 78 miles an hour, 78 and a half miles an hour.
Somewhere in my patch jacket, I have the Kike for.
There it is. It's 90 degrees out of phase, but hey, I guess it depends on what position you're in the boat.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's whoever sewed it on here. Most of these patches were actually sewed on by my grandmother years ago. She would sew on a patch from my grandfather's jacket, and then I had a mutual jacket, so I would have her sew some on for me, which his official patch jacket is in the Motorsports Hall of Fame at a Daytona Beach Motor Speedway. You can see it on display there with the boat, which is really nice. And you were talking about how the technology, Bob Nordskog, what he did, he used the boating side to help his aircraft industry business learn, with new materials and things like that. He would use the boating racing to kind of innovate for technology that ended up in the aircraft galleys that he built. And that's where they came out with the first, they call them the N-Light galleys. Initially, the aircraft galleys were all made out of stainless steel and riveted together. And then they came out, they started bonding them with the Kevlar, and we were the first to do that, which actually made them a lot more lighter and stronger. And he got a lot of that technology out of the boating industry. So it's they kind of go hand in hand, very interesting.
The synergies and the integration of all the people that we've known in this industry is You know, I'm kind of standing in the middle. I got to work with them. Wasn't one of the innovators per se. You know, working with you, working with Reggie, knowing your dad and I bet your grandfather a couple of times, but you know, certainly knew your dad from the Powerboat magazine days. So it's been a very, very fun ride.
Yeah, you've seen a lot of changes, and both of you, I'm sure I was just a little kid, you know, in the 70s, but you know, you two have been just involved in the sport for so many years as well. And it's terrific to see that, you know, still all supporting the industry, and you know, the boats, everything has just changed so much, you know, as well as the race courses. And like Fred was talking earlier, you know, we're trying to get people to start doing actual offshore runs again, and instead of just kind of circle racing within in the surf area, where they get it, you know, when they're racing in the surf area, you get more of that side, you know, the swell kind of thing coming, to where when you're going out to sea, you're going into the swells and coming back. It's a whole different way of driving. Correct.
Well, what might make that doable is what we're looking at here on this technology. Because one of the reasons that as a race promoter, one of the things that brought us to making these closed course races is to help make it commercially viable.
Right, for the spectator.
You know, if spectators can't see it, you know, it's hard to monetize that, you know, and to bring big sponsors back into the sports like it was in the days when I remember it being on the Wide World of Sports. You know, and those days were kind of a long ways from there, but getting to where we can do this kind of technology, and we get to where we can transmit actual images of the boats offshore, television and this kind of media is going to allow us to go back to that kind of racing and make it commercially viable. So it looks like the Hilo is on its way back to pick up Patriotic Duty. We still don't have a speed on Patriotic Duty, though. Well, Patriotic Duty is parked there, so I'm not sure. Janet would have to tell us if that is just it's parked on the screen or is the boat really there.
Yeah, the helicopter looks like he's heading toward it.
Unless he's circling back around to pick up the last boat, which I think the last one around the back of the island was Heatwave that we saw.
And Heatwave is posting 70-mile-an-hour speed, so they're moving.
So they must be back around on the front side of that. Yeah, it looks like they're around Avalon now. That makes sense.
Well, hopefully Patriotic Duty is not stuck there at Catalina. It's kind of by in between the two harbors and Avalon or something. But
I think that one, that graphic has been stuck there for a while. So I think that's
for a while,
because we aren't showing speeds.
Yeah, just talk straight into the mic. There you go.
Yeah, because he made it all the way down, you know, just 2 weeks ago, flawlessly from San Francisco, you know. So I'd hate to see him have a break or a problem on this run.
Well, we see Heatwave coming into our image now. Jolly Roger's already on their way back. Miss Wex is about halfway.
Jolly Roger's carrying some really good speed for as small a boat as that is. They're up to 80 miles an hour.
You know, when I was off the pier in the morning, when I saw him go by at the start, see that little Jolly Roger kind of behind, and you could really hear those outboard motors, you know, as it comes out of the water. You know, it's a whole different sound, you know.
Right.
So last year, Kyle Langkamp wrote that boat and set the record. And so now Nigel, he can't finish behind that. So he's going to be flying that boat.
Oh,
back.
that's it.
Yeah, I'm sure. Well, he's looking good on time right now. I mean, they're an hour and 20 minutes in. Well, he's not quite halfway, so they might be a little bit behind that pace, but their average that boat set last year was 65.84 miles an hour with a top speed of 90.06.
Well, we sure miss Chris Reindell, you know, who had the bat boat and brought it out. He was one of the first people to support the Ocean Cup events, who passed away tragically this year at a young age. And we miss having him out here, that's for sure. But it's glad to see that the bat boat is out there zipping along with Nigel at the helm.
On the screen.
All right, here comes Patriotic Duty. So are they coming into vision? I don't see them on the screen. So we've lost the speed on Miss Wex again. Still showing heat wave at 71 miles an hour.
Excellent.
They're about halfway back to Ship Rock.
Once they get back in the cell zone, they'll be coming up. They'll all start picking back up, just like last year. How that
Right.
is a surprise. Here they are.
It's our overall time now. We're at 8:27, and they started at just after 7 a.m.
Here are the start times.
So 7:04, 7:08.
What? Patriotic Duty just finished? Is that what we're doing?
The boat just came in. That's what the girl said.
Patriotic Duty just finished?
But don't say it yet. Just
Wait.
yet. I'll show you. The video.
Unofficial.
Yeah, I see Patriotic Duty right over there.
Okay.
Holy cow, they killed it.
Yeah, they crushed it. So last year they were at 124. Well, I don't know. They were at 124, and if they left at 7:08, yeah, probably pretty close to the record.
You suppose they just dropped their sender over here to confuse us
Yeah,
while
Yeah,
they ran
there you
away? I think that was a tactic.
just reached back and turned off the switch.
They came in stealth mode.
Well, that way you turn off your telemetry and you can't tell if you went faster than 100 miles an hour.
Oh, I download the chip. I'll know.
Yeah, I know. Oh, I know how that works.
Okay, so we're gonna write down they finished. Wow. Okay, that's exciting.
Yeah, we can look out our window and actually see the boat here now.
Can he stream?
Well, maybe in stealth mode,
Yeah.
you could be late into the airbox.
Yeah.
What do you want to stream?
Yeah,
Because
right
they never-
off,
they
right off
never-
the pier
Yeah,
there,
let me.
kind of almost in the surface.
Wow, that's some good time. May not quite be the record, but it's good time.
It's going to be close. So again, they were at 1 minute 24 seconds flat.
That boat
Last
was really
year.
a beautiful boat up close. And I was at the dock when they came in from their record run just 2 weeks ago. There wasn't a drop of salt water on the deck or on the windshield or anything coming all down the whole coast. I mean, the boat looked like it was just right out of the showroom.
Alan?
We were really surprised.
Now,
Nice.
that minute 24 that they had
Yeah.
before, that was with a 1 minute penalty for a breakout last year.
Okay.
So if they didn't break out, they were actually a little faster than that last
I
year.
got,
So we'll
I
see
got
where they're at.
Alan right here, so he's on speaker.
All right, Alan. Well, how did the boat run? Do you still have no water on the deck?
Hold my phone.
The boat is just fantastic. It ran dry. We had pretty rough stuff going out to the island and around the backside. But coming back, it was just all following sea. It calmed down, and we were doing 80 to 90 all the way back. It was fantastic. We love.
That's outstanding. We lost your tracking when you guys were about halfway on the front side of the island heading back towards Ship Rock. So we lost your speed and everything else. We didn't know how fast you were going or where you were. So glad to see you guys come across, and we'll wait for the official number to see where you're at on the record. Last year, you were a minute or an hour 24. So we'll see where you come up now.
I think we're going to come up way short of that.
What is his estimate?
Outstanding. What is your estimate?
What is our time?
What is your estimated time?
1 hour and 17 minutes. 1 hour 17 minutes is our estimate.
Hour and 17. Well, that'll beat it.
As long as you stay under 100.
As long as you stayed under 100, we never saw you bust 100 when we had you tracked.
Oh, no, we followed that 100-mile-an-hour rule very closely this time.
I'll bet.
No penalties from Janet.
Right here, Alan.
Nice run, gentlemen. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Yes, congratulations from Race
Well
Control.
done, well done. Wow, you caught us by surprise because Miss Wax is still out here.
So he definitely was in stealth mode here.
Yeah, we didn't know he came in, and we got something pop across our screen saying, "Here comes Patriotic Duty." But it's like, all right, well, I don't know if somebody sees them but that was from Kelly, and she is the scorer. She's the one running the stopwatch.
It's like the Navy SEALs, kind of a sneak attack on us.
Exactly. Well, Miss Wex looks like they are just coming up to make the right-hand turn at their at the airbox. So they're probably less than a couple minutes away, 3 minutes away from crossing the start-finish line.
So we got to be picking them up soon out our window.
And that is that father and son team. Eric and Mox Wex. They're also from here in Southern California. They picked the boat up in Florida. Actually still has Florida license plates on the trailer.
Shows they're doing about 60 miles an hour right now. Helicopter's keeping up with them. So we still don't have the helicopter view.
Okay, the second boat, which is going to be Wex, is now approaching and is visible, so we might be able to see them out the window. So they're going to get a camera outside for y'all. This Wex running 60 miles an hour.
Okay. Okay.
So we still show the helo out there. We don't show heat wave. I'm guessing the helo is over the top of heat wave. And the helo's getting a signal because of their altitude. They're not going flat on the water.
I'm glad now on that first link.
And heat wave should be the last boat. Now, we didn't see anything happen from Revelation Racing. And we were told all 5 boats made it around Ship Rock. And we have not seen Revelation Racing for a while. That is the father and daughter team, Michael and Crystal Drury.
So Kelly sent us a message, and I wasn't paying attention that they were on their way. That Patriotic scolded. Paying attention.
Well, I saw Green and I said, does that mean that they are invisible? I said, does that mean, are they visibly, we see them?
No, they're still back here.
Right, but right, it popped up on the screen, so I did see Here Comes Patriotic Duty, but I asked, does that mean that somebody can see them?
Okay,
Because we couldn't see them yet. So,
Yeah.
but congratulations to Patriotic Duty boat. First of all, those guys, you talk about a lot of running in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, they got a lot of miles.
Yeah, they got some seat time in that boat.
Question. How do you validate the 100-mile-per-hour rule?
The boats have a GPS tracker in them that track speed continuously, and they can download a chip and you can see if they broke out. A lot of the boats, the OPA series, that's one of their key classes, is their bracket classes, and they're bracketed by speed. Each boat has a telemetry system in the boat. It doesn't transmit the telemetry, but it tracks their GPS speed continuously. And if they break out, their rule is if you break out more than once for more than a couple of seconds, or I don't know what the numbers are exactly, then you get the penalty. It allows for the occasional spike, but aside from that, it's very accurate. So part of the technical after this is going to make sure they pull the chip out, run it in there, and look through. And if they broke over 100 miles an hour for whatever the rule is under this particular class, they get a penalty.
It's a good question.
They get last year they got a 1 minute penalty for breaking that. That's why they're sensitive to that speed
right.
this year.
And you got and I'm not sure how the different organizations and categories have different ways of approaching. So, and I haven't read through the rules exactly on where this is. So Miss Wex looks like they've crossed the line because they're doing 11 miles an hour right now. Yep, they're at the pier actually.
Yeah, right off the pier.
I wonder if they actually have to cross. Somebody's counted them there. It used to be you had to physically cross a line.
Well, they do.
I know. I learned that lesson the hard way in Ventura, one of my first races. All of a sudden, the race course the race was over. I was on the final lap, and I was still running, and I was going to win, but boats were crossing the race course. So I figured, all right, well, they've turned the race course loose, so I can't go racing through spectators. And I get to the end and go, Martin, you didn't cross the finish line. You had to go another quarter of a mile. So we'll drive through boats.
Oh my gosh.
So I was like, wow, all right. So listen to that.
I'll paddle across that finish line if that's what it takes.
I've seen boats do a loop around it just to make sure that they got recorded.
There you go.
Exactly. That used to be the way we had to do it if you missed a turn buoy. And then they said, if you miss a turn buoy, just don't bother coming back. You're done. Ugh. Like Mike Tomlinson's favorite thing, you hit one of those things. It really doesn't have much with what we were saying, but it just popped into my head is, your penalty be assessed immediately. So, we miss a buoy or you hit a buoy. Then it got to the point where you take out a buoy, and that messes it up for everybody else.
I still remember recovery racing, trying to beat my old record around Long Island. And it was running in the fog, and the damn thing straddled the buoy and get through. But he whacked that thing at pretty good speed in the fog.
Oh,
And I'm thinking, my goodness, I'm trying to get seriously hurt with that.
yeah.
You done a shout out to the sponsors at all? Or?
We didn't give. We have a whole bunch of stuff in front of us here. But let's go ahead and while we've got people here, while we're wrapping up, we want to thank Hill Bank. Hill Bank Motor Corporation proudly offers a legendary lineup of vintage sports cars, including the iconic Shelby Cobra, Daytona GT40, stunning Caterham classic cars, mighty Corvette Grand Sports, and many others. Each vehicle comes fully licensed following a meticulous engineering process that provides customers the peace of mind to know that each car is expertly crafted and prepared for anything the open road has in store.
And then In Ocean is where we are right now.
And In Ocean is actually who gave us this awesome suite that we're sitting here in, right on Pacific Coast Highway. In Ocean, we've accomplished quite a bit since our founding in 2005. Scroll through our interactive timeline to see some of our most important milestones. And you can get that at, let's see, inocean.com/www-en/company. But if you just go to inocean.com, I'm sure you'll get to where you need to go. Renozzi Winery. The history of winemaking in the Renozzi family dates back to 1886 when Robert's great-grandfather Federico began working in the vineyards near Fano, a small Italian village on the shores of the Adriatic Sea. While working in the vineyards, Federico and his father began making wine for family and friends. Federico immigrated to America after 2 years working as a commercial fisherman in New London, Connecticut. He decided to relocate to Buffalo, New York in 1914, where he entered into the wine and cordial business with his brother-in-law, Romero Battistoni. See, I'm reading through this straight through. I knew I was going to mess up some of those names.
So I think Miss Wex is just now crossing the finish line, if I'm seeing this correctly. It looks like they're kind of coming in slow.
Well, they were sitting right at we saw them sitting right at the pier, but they were on this side of the pier. Their bow was just past.
Okay, and then they went back out? Because this boat has been coming in slow right here.
Yeah, that might be late, but we just saw Miss Wex. I'm positive that was them sitting right there at
a delay. Okay, copy that.
Yep.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, they're definitely at idle speed here at 13 miles per hour.
Yep.
Do your homework here, the whole thing. Satcom Direct is big. Heatwave Visual, that's the map field.
Well, we want to thank Satcom. They're connecting us beyond all expectations. Satcom's direct spirit of innovation and deep customer focus underpins everything that we do. Since our formation in 1997, we've grown to become a leading provider of fully integrated end-to-end global satellite communication solutions customized to meet the unique requirements of our business, aviation, government, land, mobile, and marine customers. Like most entrepreneurial companies, we started by trying to solve a single problem: how to call an aircraft in flight on its own unique number regardless of location. The solution we created, Global One Number, is still in use today on over 7,000 aircraft. After 25 years later, that culture of problem solving and innovation is still what drives us today to deliver secure, reliable access to networks, applications, and data that are critical to your business, your mission, or your next adventure, wherever it happens. Okay, we're looking back onto the course here. We have tracking of the speed of heat wave, but I don't see them. So I don't know if they haven't reached the restricted zone yet. I don't think we're zoomed. I think we might be zoomed in. Jolly Roger is going to be the next boat that comes in. We just got a timing update. They just kind of popped up. Looks like they're coming up to the airbox.
Looks like the helicopters.
The helo is right over the top of heat wave.
We got a helo shot.
Heat wave is turning at 70 miles per hour right now. The Helo's right with
Is
them.
George streaming?
I think clearly the guys at Heatwave have had a couple of problems. We've seen them come what looked like off plane. It didn't go to blank, so we didn't lose the signal. They were down half a mile an hour, so they're obviously doing some working on the boat. Hats off to them, though. That never quit attitude of Matt. That's what that is.
Yeah, they made it
So
across.
Jolly Roger will be coming here shortly.
Also want to thank Heatwave Visual. Their motto, your vision, your style. Heatwave Visual offers a wide range of highly visual products for those that demand more of their dollar. Each pair of glasses is fully customizable and swappable with lenses, arms, and frames for a truly unique product. They are the glasses being worn by the Heatwave team. Guys, you got a chance to see some of those yesterday.
I'll have to check those out.
You can visit them at heatwavevisual.com.
Yeah, they're still sitting out there, right? Is that them?
Yep, that is Miss Wicks. Right, that's the black and yellow boat.
The black and yellow boat of Miss Wicks. Also want to thank Swingwear Media. You can get them at swingwearmedia.com. On the cusp of a social media revolution, Nico discovered the importance of self-promotion for her television and print entertainment career. In 2003, from MySpace to launch of Facebook and ultimate introduction of LinkedIn, Instagram, and Snapchat, Nico has garnered a reputation of understanding social media and millennial in a way most have yet to learn. She's working our board right now. She's the one pointing up notes here saying, Martin, you need to talk right into the microphone.
We also set up this beautiful lighting so we all look good.
Right. Well,
Best
as
you
good
can
as I
do.
could possibly look anyway.
All right, we can see a boat coming in now. A quick update, Miss Wax has not crossed the finish line yet. They had problems that came in slow. Mrs. Wax is calling
Mrs.
to
Wax.
tell them to take the finish.
Wait a minute. They can't. They're
wasn't
sitting
them.
at the finish line.
Isn't that them, the
They
yellow
didn't
and black
cross.
boat?
They didn't cross the line is what I'm understanding.
They didn't cross.
Ooh.
This is unofficial. I'll have to check. Oh, here comes Jolly Roger. Here comes another boat.
All right, so Jolly Roger's just coming up to the start-finish line.
And they're booking it too. They're
There it is.
at 80 miles an hour as they cross.
Okay, here comes. Is that Revelation there? It looks like Revelation. Woo! That's a good race then, huh?
Wow, Revelation, we lost their tracking altogether, so good for Revelation.
Right?
You know, I like to think those outboard boats have a level of reliability today that is just solid.
Amazing.
There they are. Woo-hoo!
All right. So the only boat we're waiting for right now is Heatwave.
And we have a helicopter on them, and they're 67 miles an hour.
Heatwave's running strong. They're about a third of the way back.
So they must have had a mechanical issue then, obviously.
Yeah.
Well, we'll find out later.
Yep.
Special shout out to the guys at Sunset Aquatic. That's what they got to use for the pit area over there. If you're looking for a place to slip your new boat, give them a call or visit Sunset Aquatic Park. They're at the end of Edinger Avenue in Huntington Beach. You can reach them at 855-539-6649 or Sunset Aquatic or MRN.com. So it's abbreviation for Marina. Sunset Aquatic MRN.com. Of course, the Pacific Air Show, which is what a lot of people are also here to see this weekend. With one vision, one goal, and a lot of jet fuel, Pacific Air Show was brought to life in 2016 and has been the cornerstone event of Southern California ever since. The Pacific Air Show is not just an air show. Since its launch, the spectacle scale event has grown to become the largest air show in the United States by attendance, attracting millions of spectators to Southern California every fall. The 3-day weekend features heart-pumping aerobatic demonstrations by the world's finest display teams, an exhilarating boat race around Catalina Island, which you're listening to right now, incredible entertainment, singing sessions, and your favorite air show, or signing sessions, singing sessions. I'm not going to sing.
You don't want to hear
We're going
this.
to let Fred sing later. Signing sessions with your favorite air show performers and much more. A lot of stuff happening just down on Main Street. Of course, all the great things of Huntington Beach. Special thanks to Huntington Beach. And as a Grew up in Huntington Beach. This is my hometown. There's so much to do on Main Street, all kinds of great restaurants. The boats are going to be on display all the rest of the weekend. The Historic Resources Board was established in 1987 as an 11-member advisory board to Huntington Beach City Council, providing guidance and support on matters pertaining to historic issues. The board advises on issues of preservation and historic, commercial, and residential structures and sites, cooperating with city boards and commissions to ensure that historic preservation and services are considered in the planning and future development. And of course, this boat race is something that just brings more attention to the city of Huntington Beach and all the people that live here, as well as bringing more people to get a chance to experience Huntington Beach.
They're saying you're doing a great job. Race neutral.
Thank you for that, Lucy. Appreciate it.
And if you haven't been to the air show, it's definitely a must to come down and see the air show.
100%.
And the boats on Main.
And the boats on Main. Yeah, it's a great weekend. And give a quick shout out. We have friends out in Australia that have been listening to us and watching us out at Race Marine and Mancine Cosmetics, Brent Price and Simon out there who race as well out in that circuit. So we'd love to get these guys, to come on out here and, bring more boats. Let's get them all out here. We got some updates here.
Unofficially, Jolly Roger, 1 hour and 35 minutes.
So Jolly Roger at 1 hour and 35 minutes. Last year, they were at 1 hour and 42:31. So that is unofficially a record. So we'll see what happens. Patriotic Duty, we've got to get something more official on them. And we've got to see, did Wex cross the finish line? If they didn't cross the finish line, their time just continues to run.
At 4 days and 57 minutes.
What happened to their record? They came by, so they were right there.
I don't think they were. I think it was a different boat running around out there.
No, they were sitting there.
Oh, they were sitting right there.
Yeah.
They stopped where Patriotic Duty was and didn't go across the line.
Oh.
I think
That's what it looked like. Of course, from here, kind of hard to tell. Could be wrong. Could be giving you all wrong information. But that looked a lot like Wix to me.
Well, here's some right information. We're good to see that Heat Wave is still running strong, coming back in after their earlier issues. But they're at 60 miles an hour. The helicopter's right with them, and they should be back in here in just a few minutes.
Well, we'll look to see if the helo can get us a shot when they get here. If they get linked back up to a connection, we might see Heat Wave come across the finish line.
Just good to see them running again.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, one of the boats got stuck on the backside last year, right? Who was that got stuck back there?
Andy Copeland and the Super Fountain.
Yeah. And that was the Ray Marine boat,
Yes.
right? That's a beautiful boat as well. That Ray Marine with the turbine.
roving.
What do you think of the time boats?
I'm a little surprised at how many of them seem to have mechanical issues because the base engines are among the most reliable. I mean, they come out of aircraft, and some of them are retired from aircraft, which may be part of the reason
problem,
they have the issues. But a good running turbine boat is really it's hard to get greater reliability. Learning to run them and drive them is a challenge because they're not user friendly. It damn near takes a pilot to know how to light
the
them.
throttle response is totally different, so you have to pay attention to them. And the other issues I see with them is heat. Managing the exhaust is a challenge. I mean, the last turbine boat I ran, literally, you could roast marshmallows standing behind it. Wow. So,
one of the strong proponents of the turbines is Ted McIntyre out of Louisiana, and he's done a lot of boats. He actually did a demo outboard with us on a Mercury racing lower section.
All right, we now have ourselves a video shot, and that is Heat Wave.
Excellent.
Helo in pursuit. Well, the boat looks like it's running great now.
Yeah, looks terrific.
Yeah, it's running at 65 miles an hour. The helicopter's struggling to keep up at 6. Well, he's back up there too. We did have a problem earlier with helicopters that couldn't keep up with the race boats, but that 100-mile-an-hour cap has put them back in the game.
Yeah, it has. Yeah, it's a little bumpy, or he's running a little loose, but he's going over the top, so you can see the surge. So can't wait. I'll talk to those guys and find out what the challenges were they had, but they overcame them, and here they come.
And they're lighter on fuel now, which is why they're probably flying a little more than they did in the earlier part of the race.
You know, it's deceptive. You look at the screen, it just looks like it's dead flat, but there's that perpetual roll, and that's how you can see the boat there. The boat's over the top of a swell right there where the frame locked. But the spacing is nice. You just don't really launch off of it. You just come over and settle back down. Our view of the Huntington Beach Pier, kind of from the vantage point of our window, actually.
10 minutes out, I think. Yeah, he's on his way. Yeah, he's okay. Helicopter's on him. Okay, we have an update from Jolly Roger. The reason we lost from Jolly Roger, the reason we lost the Starstream on board is it had come loose and they had to stop and remove the Starlink unit and secure it. So that record that they set included a stop to re-rig the Starlink.
Wow.
Resecure it.
There you go. So it
Boy.
didn't beat the boat to death.
Yes, so it didn't beat the boat to death. Now, are we looking at this? Is
Heat wave.
wow,
shot there.
that is beautiful, beautiful.
Yeah, they look like they're running right where they want to run speed-wise. I mean, they could lost a lot of the speed.
Yeah,
There they are.
we'll see the helicopter coming.
Looks like he's got a pretty good trim on the boat too, right?
It's beautifully trimmed.
Yep.
When he does launch, it launches nice and flat. It
Nice and
lands
flat.
just the way you want a boat trimmed.
And it's like when he comes off, the boat just settles right down over the top. Not enough of a swell to launch him.
What speed is he running now? Does it show?
It's not.
We lost
We
the
lost
speed.
that as well, but he looks like he's doing pretty good.
Yeah, it was great talking to those guys yesterday, and Brian was just talking about, getting that boat back running from his dad. It was just a dream from him since he was a little kid. So I know this is a big deal for him to be out here running this boat right now, and just finishing this race after being in the boat that has that family history. It's just very cool.
So everybody is finished except the heat wave, correct?
Correct.
Well,
And this is their
and
first.
we're-
And this is their first race. Their first time racing.
And the question mark on whether or not was it Wex
Yep. Miss
Cross.
Wex.
crossed the finish line or not at the end of the pier. We gotta have a after action accounting of that.
Yeah. They're going to be really mad if they were sitting there staring at the wrong side of the finish line and didn't cross it and therefore didn't get timed
Now, is the finish line directly
at the pier.
at the pier itself?
Right. So we were told that unofficially they didn't cross the timing mark.
That's not good.
That's not good.
I can't get over how beautifully that boat is trimmed. They were doing an excellent job.
Yeah, there's a great shot there.
And that is an old 1988 Magnum.
Really? Love the Magnums. Beautiful boats.
You hadn't got up here yet, but they told me that their dad bought that boat out of a police auction in
Really?
South Florida.
Wow.
Well, I know the boat's got to be older than that because it's got Generation 1 K-planes on the transom with the original cylinders. I'm amazed that they haven't rotted off by now because they had no anodic protection. They had no bonding strips. They were a good product to redesign.
Original equipment. The
There you
definition
go.
of original equipment right there.
Hey, old school offshore here now.
Well, I see that tanker in the background, so they're getting close. So we got their speed back. They're doing just at 60 miles an hour.
That looks good. Hey, just I have an update on the Chief. They did pass the finish line, but really slow, and then they turned right around because they have engines. These are the original engines that were in the boat when it was built. So they rebuilt them a couple times. And so earlier when we didn't know what the engine package was, they were the original engines in the boat. So they're from what, 50 years old? Something.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely wow.
So, but they did officially cross the start finish
Yes, that's
line.
correct.
All right, that's the most important thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
That means the clock stopped.
Yeah.
Oh, look at them go.
Are we going to have any live feed at the dock at all, or anything down there?
Yeah,
Janet? We
yeah.
are. Okay.
Okay,
Terrific.
we're also going to have
radio.
we're also going to have an award ceremony tomorrow that's open to the public, and that's going to be down on Main Street. What time do we set that up? Or 11 o'clock?
Yes, 11 o'clock.
So 11 o'clock tomorrow, right on Main Street at the pier. Anybody that's local, you're welcome to come down and see the teams accept their awards for records set.
Got the helicopter back, so the boat's right under it, you know.
So they're just now passing the sea farm, so they'll be making the right-hand turn to head towards the pier here in a couple minutes.
Oh, that's a good idea. Should we do that? Should I call him? Yeah.
Yeah, I have the official Rum Run trophy in my vehicle, which will be on display over at the dock.
Now we get a beautiful view out of the helicopter looking at the boat.
That is
You can see the instrument panels and a little bit of the skids as they went over the boat. Now the boat's running strong. It looks to be still in that 70-mile-per-hour range. The helicopter's dropped back.
Yeah, he's running great. Great. Now you can see the shoreline ahead of them, so they're in sight. Good for them. The boat is running great.
Shout out to Peter Howell out there. Keeps commenting. Said that 35 years ago, his team assisted the heat wave in the SoCal race.
Okay. That's a copy.
Yeah, thanks for your contribution, Peter. It's always interesting to get background.
Love the real-time feedback.
We're basically just waiting for them to come in, and that's everybody.
That looks like it might be 10 miles, so they should be here in about 6 minutes, you think?
If that,
Yeah, they're going pretty good. Maybe less than 10. huh?
less than 10 miles. It's 26 miles across, so I'd say they're
5 miles. out?
3/4 of the way, maybe 5 miles out.
Okay,
So everybody's going to make it in well before the lockdown.
that's great.
So that's good.
Oh, I also had another update from Jolly Roger, Captain Hook, and Tim Pattison. They also ran out of fuel on one tank and had to stop and change fuel tanks.
Oh boy.
Oh, details. They bite you every time. The engines are happy when they've got air and fuel. They're unhappy when they get only air.
Correct. They don't run good with only fuel either.
Now, what type of fuel are they all using these days?
Well, those boats are using just regular pump gas. Yeah.
Regular pump gas.
Yeah, 87 octane pump gas. Now the 1150, 1350s can run on either, correct? They can run on pump gas or, well, even the 1350, they have to have racing gas or they just have to
No,
have 91?
you have to have 91.
It's the 1550s that require 1350, 1550s run on pump gas, 91, or if you're going to run 1550 mode, you got to run race fuel.
Correct.
Which is a difference between how much per gallon of gas.
These days, I've lost count.
And I wouldn't,
Well, we are in
want to
California.
measure it in California's fuel prices
No,
either.
not now. Fill up before you get to California.
Yeah, your gas prices here are just shocking. I mean, our gas prices, live in Alabama now, our gas prices are $3.20 a gallon. Florida, it's $3.20 a gallon, 25 cents a gallon.
I just saw $7 driving by coming down here. $7 a gallon.
91 octane in Colorado is 4.5 with a discount from your grocery store coupons.
Okay. All right, we're waiting for Heat Wave to make their way to the airbox to make their right-hand turn, come across the start-finish line, and that'll wrap up the 2023 Ocean Cup Pacific Rum Run here in Huntington Beach.
in combination with the Pacific Air Show, which is going to start in about an hour and a half.
But you can catch our live feed again
Comment
right
from
down at the
Kelly.
dock soon.
So as I mentioned, the awards will be on the corner of Main Street and Pacific Coast Highway, where the boats will be on display for the main event tomorrow. And they're going to do that at 11 o'clock in the morning tomorrow.
Should be quite busy down here over the weekend, though, right? Everybody coming for the air show.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I saw some shots of the crowds from last year, and it was amazing. The beach was packed all the way up to the road.
Well, people start parking on Pacific Coast Highway double wide to stop and watch the air show too. So traffic starts becoming a challenge.
Yeah, get here early.
So again, this studio, do we have the in motion? It's just a beautiful place to be with the pier, and they're getting set up for a barbecue here to watch the air show. So
Oh, there you go.
Stuart's been great.
Yeah, we love the what they've done for the renovation downtown and the hotels and the office buildings down here. Is just amazing, and to watch that evolution growing up here, and how they've done the hotels and the downtown Main Street area just has so many things going on, car shows, weekend events. It's a great place, and special thanks to the In Motion folks for giving us this conference room that overlooks the race course.
Yeah, terrific location.
And with all the, to put on these kind of things takes a certain amount of technology as well. So to have the internet speed that's capable of doing it, the power resources we need, the lighting, all the things we need to make this happen. Thanks to InOcean, just couldn't do it without them.
And Swingwire Media, who got us all set up here.
Kelly's online right there.
Well, there's Kelly online.
She's on the end of the pier, it looks like.
So she is waiting for the final boat to come across, and that is going to be Heat Wave.
You're on camera. You're live. Sorry. I don't know if you guys can hear me.
Oh, we got a flag girl.
I have a beautiful flag
Looks
girl.
like Shay from the Patriotic Duty.
Kelly's talking. I don't know.
Yeah, she's talking.
here. Okay.
You guys can put your headphones on. She's probably can't talk back to you, right?
See you guys later.
But if you want to hear what she's saying, you need to put your headphones
Yeah.
Oh, is she talking to us, or is she just?
She just said hi.
Oh, okay.
I have to go back to my
Okay,
timing.
they Brian, Patriotic Duty. I got a message. Yeah, on their way.
How do you?
All right, here come Brian and Matt right now.
I don't know how you flip the camera. Do I just hit camera?
We're
I'm on
Should
the
be able to
line.
see them behind us in a moment.
No.
Be able to hear.
no, only
Just turn it, Maurice had it at the air show. Turn this at 1B.
Okay,
Now we've got a great graphic of them.
about a mile away, maybe.
You can almost see
Well,
the
when
propeller.
they turn it to Marshall, it's 0.6 miles from there to the pier.
0.6, okay. Terrific.
And they're making the turn right now.
I know.
Helicopter's going to get a penalty. He's cutting the buoy.
Yeah. Well, it's been a
Good
pleasure.
news, Heat Wave will not get a penalty.
That's right.
Not this time.
And they get to finish through the airbox. And that was a big topic of discussion yesterday, whether or not there was going to be weather that caused us to delay or a boat that had a problem. So no plan B.
Well, I want to say that it's been a pleasure being with my friends Martin and Fred here, enjoying the Ocean Cup live. So thank you guys for both being here. And
Well,
It's our
thank
pleasure to
thank
see
you
you
for
both.
joining us.
It's all our pleasure. So they've now crossed the start-finish line.
So 9:04. That's excellent.
And that is a wrap. All 5 boats crossing the
Yes.
start-finish line here at the 2023 Ocean Cup Pacific Rum Run.
Yep. Heat waves just under 2 hours to like 1:57 or so. We gotta check. All right.
Yeah, unofficially 157 for heat wave. That's a very good run given their earlier problems.
Absolutely.
Right around that, yeah.
Looking forward to seeing what the time ended up being for Patriotic Duty. They unofficially thought they were at 1:17. So now Jolly Roger and Heat Wave are heading back.
And this is where I sign off. I'm going to head over to the dock and meet everybody over there, set up the trophy. So are you gentlemen going to be over there? Or are you going to be
Over at the docks back at Sunset?
Yeah, over at the marina.
Yeah, I'll probably head over that way.
Okay, so it's been a pleasure again. I hope to see you guys over there.
Good seeing you,
Get
Eric.
over there, set up the trophy and other good stuff. Nice seeing you, gentlemen. Take care, everybody.
All right, well, that's a wrap for us. Fred, as always, a big pleasure to spend time with you. And I'm going to have to coerce you. I got called yesterday about doing a special web thing that they want to do to have people get on that know Reggie and talk to Reggie. And I know you have a very interesting relationship and he goes back
I
with
have a
Reggie.
long history with Reggie, and he's done amazing things for the performance boating world, and I count him among my friends.
Same here. So, but they're talking about doing something. They called me on the 18th and asked about doing it. I said, I'm going to ask Fred because I'm going to be sitting with Fred. So we'll see if we can get you involved in that as well. But we want to thank everybody for helping put this thing together. It's always a pleasure to come back to my hometown, Huntington Beach, and be a part of anything that has to do with racing and all of my friends with the racing. So for Fred Kiekefer, Eric Nordskog, everybody here, Janet, all the Ocean Cup people, thank you so much for being a part of the 2023 Ocean Cup Pacific Rum Run. And I hope you can all make it to the awards ceremony tomorrow. And we'll look forward to seeing you at the next event. Have a great rest of the week and enjoy the air show.
Thank you, guys.
Yep.